Thanks for joining me again on the marketplace and welcome back. Now, the total amount of debt the country owes as at the end of 2016 could be more than the 122 billion cedis that has been reported earlier. This is because the Finance Ministry says it is yet to release the final numbers. Meanwhile, latest economic and financial data released by the Bank of Ghana still post the debt estimates at 122 billion cedis, which sources say is provisional. George Wiafe has more on this and other developments on the economy as captured in the report.
A careful look at the debt numbers over the past 2 years shows the amount always goes up when the Finance Ministry releases the final estimates. Analysts were looking forward to the final debt numbers by this time, especially when it's about 3 months after closing the financial year for 2016. However, persons with knowledge of the debt numbers say it is still being worked on and it could go up or record little change. According to the Bank of Ghana's report, more than half of the 122 billion cedis were loans taken from outside the country, with the remaining secured locally. The public debt as of December still accounts for about 73% of the total value of the economy, a development that could still result in the country being described as struggling to pay its debts on time. The Bank of Ghana report showed that economic activities picked up significantly in January compared to the last 2 months in 2016. It also revealed we have earned more from our exports than how much it cost us to import for the country's needs. On the monetary side, the report showed efforts to check the amount of money in circulation is yielding some results, as the amount of money outside the banking system has gone down marginally, while foreign currency deposits for the month of January compared to the same period for last year is also reducing. The banking sector report also points to some mixed results. Whilst assets, deposits, and loan advances were going up significantly, the loans that banks fear might go bad as of January were still very high compared to the same period for last year.
All right, so that was George Wiafe, who will shortly be joining me right here in the studio to tell us more about what the Monetary Policy Committee of the Central Bank took into consideration before deciding to reduce the policy rate to 23.5%. But before then, the Ministry of Agriculture has reiterated the call for farmers and agri stakeholders in the country to register their farm-based groups in the various communities in the district. This is to enable easy access to information and policies in the sector and also to help them with effective implementation. Director of MOFA, Theophilus Oseusu, made this remark in an interview with Joy Business.
According to a director at the Ministry of Food and Agriculture, Theophilus Oseusu, the call for such groups is essential because government has started providing group-based extension services to farmers. This, he said, is in line with a new approach to deal with the problem of inadequate extension officers in the agricultural sector. He made the call on the sidelines of a workshop on agricultural sustainability in Accra.
Using the group approach to holding discussions and meetings and training.
You think that's the best option?
It is one of the key options that we are using in the face of the low numbers of our agricultural extension agents in the field. All right, it's one of the key areas. Then we also engage in radio and TV educational programs, awareness creation.
So in a way, you are having self-extension officers?
Sure. Using the farmer-based organization members, we get them to a point, we give the information to them so that when they go back to their communities, we expect them also to meet with their group members and then share these insights with them. There is follow-up from our low numbers of AEs.
He further called on the media to help in disseminating information on agricultural and best practices for farming.
With time, we'll get the information will get to more people as we want it to be. And this is where we appreciate the fact that media should engage us some more and then know what we are about, our roles and responsibilities, and how we are rolling these policies and strategies out so that together you help us help our farmers so that they can help us also by way of producing to feed us.
The workshop was attended by agricultural research officers, farmers, and district agricultural managers, among others.
Meanwhile, the Ministry of Food and Agriculture is saying that Ghana's agricultural extension officer to farmer ratio has reached about 1,000 to 1 farmer. Now, speaking in an interview with Joy Business, Director at the Ministry of Food and Agriculture, Theophilus Oseiusu, laments the situation needs more sacrifice from stakeholders in order to develop a sustainable agricultural policies to improve the nation's food security.
Cash trap. So we have to make do with the little resources that we get
Government
at a time.
Budgetary allocations every year.
Yes, they do, but it's woefully inadequate. We still can do better. You see, when you talk about extension farmer ratio, we are talking of the ideal situation, one extension officer working with 400, maximum 500 farmers. Now we're talking in the region of 1,500 to 2,000 plus farmers to one extension officer. So you see, this limited as though they are infrastructure that are made available. We need to make the maximum use of them, whilst we still ask for upping of these equipment and tools.
Now, some waste management stakeholders have called on government to support the waste management industry in advancing the country's socio-economic development. Waste management remains a major challenge for city authorities across the country, as the companies in the sector are yet to comprehensively address the menace. The industry currently employs over 65,000 people, and players say this could be maximized along with other untapped economic benefits. They spoke with Kuku Aban in an interview.
You see, waste issues affect everybody in Ghana. So it should be the government's priority. Since it affects everybody in Ghana, it should be its priority.
What do you want?
Support, like for instance, import duties on the machinery are very high. Number two, financing to support this kind of venture is also not forthcoming because it's expensive. Running waste management machines is expensive venture. So we need if it's a sanitation fund, you know, that can create and assist companies in this venture, you know, with very low interest rates. That would be fine with us. But with this current interest rates of about 30 to 40%, no waste management company can afford.
So that was Chief Executive of Waste Management Company, Tidy Up Ghana, Stephen Ampofo. Now, what reaction to this call? Well, some financial institutions, however, believe government's role is rather to create the enabling environment for businesses across all sectors to thrive. Providing some incentives for waste management companies, they believe is not the way to go, but an enabling environment which would ensure that a lasting solution is found to the concerns of waste management. Here is Managing Director of Premium Bank, Kwesi Tumi.
Yes, definitely government has a role to play, but I think that government's role should not be in terms of just dishing out money. I think that government's role should more be making the environment very operable for everybody. In that way, for instance, if the macro environment is stable, his costs will go down, his finance costs will go down. So if government focuses on doing those things, removing bottlenecks, for instance, in sanitation, are there sites where some of these things can be sent to, the land acquisition to be able to do that, you know, stuff that facilitates business, not necessarily giving money at cheap rates. I don't believe that.
This is on the marketplace, and now to the story of the day. The Bank of Ghana has reduced the policy rate by 200 basis points to 23.5%, citing a favorable economic outlook. This was after it met last week to review the health of the economy. The policy rate currently will act as a rate at which banks can borrow from the central bank. It also influences the cost of credit for business and individuals in the country. The governor announced this at a press briefing where my colleague George Rafi was there, and he has joined me right here in the studio. George, it's good to have you.
Thank you so much, Rafi.
Now, so what actually went into this particular, development?
Earlier on, you tried to explain in your story about the favorable economic outlook. Basically, the Bank of Ghana has a policy where they call the inflation targeting. So they always try every policy, measure, tool that they use in the economy in terms of supply of currency is what can we do to contain inflation. Now, the policy rate is the rate at which they lend to commercial banks.
Okay.
So if they want to control the amount of currency in circulation, they would want to hike the rate. That would also impact on the cost of credit for commercial banks, and they would also make it difficult for it to get these Ghana cedis or cash in terms of those ones that are in circulation. So that is what they always use this policy rate tool to do that. Now, by this drop in 200 basis points, that is the biggest we have seen in terms of drop since 2006, and that could be about 10 years. So it looks like for the Bank of Ghana, they are seeing something that we are not seeing. For the various surveillance tools that they have in place to do their forecast, it looks like things are going to stabilize. And therefore, inflation wouldn't be a problem at all. So if you were hiking the rate to check the amount of Ghana cedis in circulation, now is the time to ease that rate so that there will be more Ghana cedis in circulation a little bit, so that they would free up credit and that it would influence the cost of credit so they can lend to people like you, Yafe. If you walk into any commercial bank and you're looking for credit, it means that there's a possibility that they'll reduce that cost at which you intend to secure that loan from the commercial bank.
All right, so before we come to look at the impact of this particular drop in the policy rate, what else came up?
Before I even look at what else came up, the governor has also trying to be explained to us why it was significant to drop the rate at this particular time. Let's watch him on the screens.
Marginal growth in real terms. Now, if you take that, what that means is it may have very marginal impact on liquidity in the market and perhaps less impact on foreign exchange because it's very marginal. If you consider that, from our assessment of risk to inflation and growth, if you consider that the last time, and that should tie in to Suleiman's this thing, from the last MPC, inflation has come down significantly. So which means that implicitly, and I said that there has been some tightening. And per our analysis, there was scope for even reduction to about 230 basis points if we were to maintain the status quo as at the last MPC meeting. There was scope for that, but we only reduced by 200 basis points, also in support of growth.
All right, so that was the governor of the central bank. We're going to look at the analysis from an economist point of view, Courage Marty. But before then, George, so what other things have actually come up?
The governor spoke about the Ghana cedi and what they are doing to try and stabilize the Ghana cedi. More policy measures will be put in place to sustain it. But there's still some quagmire here, some problem here. Now, the Bank of Ghana in one breath wants to stimulate credit by dropping the rate. Also, don't forget the Ghana cedi is still a problem. But some people believe that it looks like the outlook is good. So the governor was talking about the fact that they are going to put in a lot of measures in place to stabilize the Ghana cedi. Also talked about our reserves position and the fact that it could also even improve more. And also for the fact that going forward, there are other things that they are putting in place to ensure that the economy stabilizes. In terms of the monetary side, do what they have to do to support the fiscal side to help stabilize the economy going forward.
So now going forward, what will be the impact on the other sectors of the economy?
Well, first, credit and the cost of credit has been a significant item on a lot of businesses. So if credit is going to reduce the cost, businesses, that would lessen their cost of operations. Now, don't forget that this cost also indirectly could impact price on petroleum products as well. And even the fact that if the city is appreciating its impact on petroleum products. So it looks like going forward, it could be fairly stable. Look at the cost of operations for businesses. That could also impact on the cost of living for individuals, because if it's more cheaper for me to produce the 1 unit of toffee for your kid, it means that I will drop that price. And going forward, it looks like things might indeed
stabilize. You think
stabilize.
it will meet the expectations of the business community?
Well, there are some who are looking for more than that, because if you look at the policy rate of 16%, they were looking at the treasury bill rate of around 16%. They thought that the cut should have been more than 200 basis points. And we have also been engaging some analysts, on this one, and that was Courage Mate. Immediately after the NPC announcement, it looks like he has some interesting thoughts to share with us.
Let's hear from Courage Mate now to get his views.
Cautions we raised was that even though the city is recovering, it will be important to be a bit more cautious, because you don't know which direction it could head after reaching its stable level or peak. And so the central bank decided that 200 basis points is the best to move, and that shows that they are more confident about the exchange rate outlook and the positive impact it can have on inflation. You know, the central bank has two mandates: the primary mandate, which is price stability, and the secondary mandate, which is to support growth. Now, given the improved and bullish outlook for inflation and exchange rates, it's now time for them to support the growth outlook by reducing the policy rate and stimulating private sector credit further. And they have decided to lean towards the secondary mandate at this particular meeting.
I see a challenge here. Now, in one breath, the Bank of Ghana wants to use its policy rate to try and stimulate growth and also encourage more borrowing. Now, in another breath, we had a cedi that depreciated sharply, and we are still not sure whether we are out of the woods. Now, by this sharp reduction, aren't you then reversing the gains that we are already recording in stabilizing the cedi by this action?
Well, two quick things. The governor noted that the cedi is expected to make further gains. So that shows that the outlook for the cedi, at least in the short term, is still bullish and positive. The second thing you will also notice from the data is that we recorded a trade surplus, meaning that we exported more than we spent importing, and that led to an improvement in our gross reserves from 3.5 months of import cover to 3.7 months of import cover. That tells you that fundamentally the cedi is supposed to be quite strong and stronger than its experience in the last months before now. What then is the problem? The problem has been that of speculation.
All right, that was an economist from Data Bank Financial Services, Courage Martin. Now, George, before you go, what do you want to add? Anything further that comes
Well,
up?
it's all about watching the space and see what would happen. And this is a challenge. And some will say that by 200 basis points, you again expect the commercial banks to respond. Some have already responded before even this announcement by dropping their rates. And therefore, for what the Bank of Ghana is saying, looks like things might indeed stabilize for the economy. And that would be good news.
With inflation rates also marginally, dropping, has it got any correlation?
Well, it has, because the Bank of Ghana's main mandate is to check the amount of Ghana cedis in circulation to ensure that it balances productivity. So if, again, the outlook shows that inflation is going to reduce or is going to stabilize, then there is no need to try and mop up the little Ghana cedi in circulation, which should always match with productivity. Because if it's more than that, then we'll see more monies chasing few goods.
Thank you very much. Obviously,
Economics 101.
Good. For
Thank you so much, Yafe.
Thank you for having you. And that was George Yafe. Now, away from that, producers of Onga food seasoning products, Promasidor Ghana Limited, is confident its new Guinness World Record would go a long way to position the brand on the international market. Onga, over the weekend, broke the Guinness World Record for the longest feet table at the Independence Square in Accra. The event showcased Ghana's food culture to the world with over 3,000 invited guests treated to assorted local dishes. It makes Promasidor Ghana the first Ghanaian company to make it into the World Records book. Charles Aite has more.
The Guinness World Record for the longest feast table has now been taken by producers of Onga food seasoning products at the Independence Square in Accra. Speaking at the landmark event held at the Independence Square, Managing Director of Onga, Dek Larryman, said the event was also aimed at showcasing Ghana's rich food culture, especially as the country marks its 60th anniversary.
Onga, we can proudly say that I think the Ghanaians like our products and patronize our products. So we've been very happy doing business in Ghana.
Brand manager of Onga, Emily Ntego, noted Onga will be using its achievement of the Guinness World Record to showcase the potential of Ghanaian dishes on the world market.
We expect that our patrons, having seen that we have gone into the world limelight, they should know that the quality of the product is unrivaled and it will continue to deliver in the pot.
So far, Onga remains the only Ghanaian multinational company to have broken the world record for the longest fish table, having taken over from Saudi Arabian market leader in the edible oils sector, Afia International Company, which held the record with a table of 1,508 meters in length.
Now, instead of waiting to secure a well-paid white-collar job and consequently adding to the teeming unemployed youth, 28-year-old Esther Billy quit her job as cashier at a microfinance company and ventured into local soap production to make ends meet. 5 years down the lane, her business is booming and Esther is employing more hands to help her deliver the growing number of customers. Mahmoud Mohammed Nuruddin has visited Esther's shop in Tamale in the northern region, where she now produces and packages local soap for sale, and has come through with this report.
It's Monday afternoon in Tamale, and 28-year-old Esther is busy producing her local soup. At the time of our visit, her workers were not available. They had gone to spend the weekend with their families. Esther had already delivered most of her locally produced soups to customers. But Mark Combien is here to help Esther sort out her product for delivery.
It was not really easy. Even now that the business is out there, the challenge is much now. Customers are on us. We don't produce our things now. We just produce and they pick. We produce and they pick. But the first challenge was the capital. I built this place myself using the profits I get from the business.
Esther completed a diploma in accounting in 2011 at the Tamale Polytechnic. Her interest in soap making developed after attending an entrepreneurship workshop. She started with 100 pieces, which she later sold to family members and friends. She's now expanding her production with the hope to serve a bigger market.
I really started in my kitchen veranda. And now where I am, I operate, the space is about more than 4 rooms. And I used to produce like 50, 100, and now we are producing in tons. Like we can do 5 tons a day. In a week, we can get like 6 or 7 tons.
For her, it would cost her so much to leave the business.
20,000 work, like capital for the work. But the other investment outside, the business can say that we have about 200 in wealth cash invested. We don't have permanent workers. Our current workers are about 7. But the rest are casual workers. And sometimes we can get about 20 casual workers when we have much work. The message I have for my colleagues out there is that you should just try to do something for yourself. Don't sit there and wait for the government to come and give you a job. This job I'm into, even if the government comes to give me a bigger car, I won't go. Because I'm much satisfied here. And I would like them to be creative. Just think of something. The businesses are all over. And to start a business is problem solving. When you want to start a business, look for something that can solve a problem. Don't just get up and do something because other people are doing.
Esther's entrepreneurship drive was propelled by her grandmother, who used to also process moringa seed into oil, as well as the leaves for medicinal purposes. Mohammed Nuruddin's reports for Joy News.
And on that resilience of Esther, we conclude this afternoon's package of the marketplace. My name is Emmanuel Boaji. Many thanks for joining me. Let's meet again tomorrow for interesting developments in the world of business. Good afternoon.